Hello and welcome to Total Health with Dr. Nick, where my purpose is to inspire, empower, and motivate you to live longer, healthier, and more abundant lives. And today, guys, this video is probably the most important video I could ever do for you because I want to talk to you about the single most important thing when it comes to your health. Now, I know a lot of you are thinking, well, it's got to be the keto diet, or if you're on the paleo diet, it has to be that. Maybe even your exercise program, that's going to be the most important thing, or maybe genetics. I know you look at that and think, well, if my mom was a certain way or my dad had a disease, then I'm going to have that disease. Well, I'm here to tell you there's something even more important. And why maybe what you're doing is not a good idea when it comes to your health, and how you could be sabotaging your results and maybe setting up your life for sickness and disease. So I want you to watch to the end. Make sure you watch every bit of it. This, like I said, it's probably the most important video I'll ever do for you guys, because I'm going to go over a lot of tips at the end that are very, very important. And of course, if you like what we're talking about, make sure you like, you share, you comment, and subscribe. All right? So let's go ahead and get started. So like I said, health is your greatest asset. Health is your greatest wealth, just like Virgil said about 2,000 years ago. So my prayer for you tonight is this, that what I talk about touches your heart, that you really listen with your heart, open up your mind, because a lot of things I'm going to talk about are going to change your life. You're never going to look at your healthcare decisions ever the same way again. And what I want for you is I want you to have abundant health. The problem is that if many of you don't fix the health problems you have, I don't want you to end up like so many other people where you're sick and suffering, chronic disease, chronic pain, chronic illness, tired and fatigued all the time, crying out to God for some kind of answers. I don't want you to be on drugs. I don't want you to be, like I said, sick and suffering, and I certainly don't want you to be hospitalized, surgery, or even losing your health, because the worst place you could ever be is when someone else is in control of your health. And I got to see that when it came to my mom. When I lost my mom, I really saw what this was about. I saw how tragic it is when you lose your health. And that made an indelible impact on me, in that I never wanted anybody else to suffer the way my mom did when she got cancer, because she started off with lung cancer. It spread to her brain. It spread to her hip. It was virtually everywhere in her body. And I watched my best friend go from about 135 pounds down to about 75 pounds. She had tubes coming out of her. She had catheters coming out. She had to have drugs put in all different ways through tubes because her arteries were collapsing. Her hair was falling out. She had a bullseye drawn over here where they would shoot the radiation in. And I literally watched my best friend deteriorate, despite the fact that she was doing everything she was told to do. Her doctors told her everything, the chemo, the radiation. I watched it destroy her body, and I knew there was a better way. My mom never got to see me graduate. She never met my wife. She never met my children. And it probably hurts me more now than ever before that she's not in our lives, that the choices she made, and I don't blame my mom because she didn't know better back then, as the dangers of smoking cigarettes when she started. But now I'm seeing the impact, because now my family doesn't get the benefit from that, and I don't want that to happen to you, because the reality is this. Many of you are in a health crisis right now. Many of you are maybe coming out of a health crisis. You know what I'm talking about. And so many of you are about to get hit with a health crisis that is absolutely going to rock your world. And like I said, I don't want that to happen. I want this to be more about hope, teaching you how your body works, how it heals, how it functions, how God created it to be healthy and well from the beginning, from the inside out. And like I said, I want you to be healthy. I want you to have abundant health and abundant wellness. But if you're doing the wrong things, if you're blaming God, if you're blaming bad germs, bad luck, bad genes, it's not going to work that way. You've got to understand that health is coming from your choices. Now, I know it's tough love, and you know me, I'm pretty real about these kind of things, but I got to get in your face a little bit. It's about the choices you're making as to whether you're going to be as healthy and well as God had created for you to be. Because I want you to think about something. If you have dreams and aspirations of going to school, going to college, traveling around the world, doing all the things, opening up a business, doing all the things you want to do, all the things you love, you can't do any of that without your health. Your health is your greatest asset. So my purpose for this video tonight is to get you out of a system that isn't working. If you think about the numbers, 2 out of 3 people in this country, United States, will die of heart disease or cancer. And if you're hoping you're the other third, you're going to get the diabetes, the Alzheimer's, the obesity, and all the other degenerative diseases. That right now in this country, only 1 out of 1,000 people has a chance to make it to 60 and in good health. Now, I don't mean 60 and breathing. I mean 60 with a quality of life that you can enjoy things that you want to do. If you want to walk on the beach, go to Disney World with your children, your grandchildren, play tennis, play golf, wake up without pain. Half the country right now is on chronic prescription meds. We're seeing children now that are getting adult onset diabetes to the point where we can't even call it adult onset diabetes. It's now just called type 2 diabetes. And there's actually a type 3 diabetes, which is Alzheimer's. Did you guys know that? Yeah, right now we look at children in our country where when I was growing up, we never heard of autism. It wasn't around. It was maybe 1 out of 10,000 children. Right now it's about 1 in 48. We're seeing more kids with allergies, asthma, degenerative disorders. We're seeing kids with neuro disorders. We're seeing all kinds of disorders with our children that we never saw growing up. We never saw peanut allergies. We never saw children that, were taking medications, diabetes medications at such an early age. And they're saying this is the first generation of children that's not going to outlive their parents. So we're doing a lot of things wrong. We have more doctors, more hospitals, more research, more development, more medications than any other time in our history, and yet we're getting sicker and sicker. If you just think of heart disease and cancer, they're going up, they're not going down. Yeah, there's some cancers that we're beating, but the majority of them we're losing the battle against. We're losing despite the fact we have lower fat than any other time in our history. Everybody's afraid of fat. We have more heart disease than any other time in our history. So we're making a lot of mistakes. We're doing a lot of things wrong, and one of the things we're doing is constantly turning to medications. We look at medications like it's the answer. In fact, medications many times are a major problem, and you know that. You see the side effects from it. You see people getting addicted from it. One thing you might not realize is that medications will sicken or kill about 1.5 million Americans every single year, and you don't even see this because it's all over the country. It's not just in one area. Can you imagine your town gets wiped out? That would make the news. But when it's sprinkled around the whole country, you never see it. 1.5 million Americans sickened or killed is the equivalent of 3 9/11 attacks happening every single day. And one thing I'm not telling you to never go to your doctor. I'm not telling you to stop taking a medication or never get a surgery if you need it. If something's life-saving, I understand that. But the problem is we're turning to medications for everything. It's like we have a pill for every ill. This isn't working out. We're taking more and more drugs, and yet we're getting sicker and sicker. We need to understand that medication has a place and surgery has a place, but the reality is if you are practicing health and wellness and doing things conservatively and taking care of your body more proactively, doing things that actually build health than build sickness and disease, you won't need the medical system as much. You'll use it for just what it's been designed for, which is a crisis, emergency, or trauma care system. You maybe need medicine about 3% of the time, but I want to get you into a wellness-based model 97% of the time. And that's really my purpose. So let me ask you this question. If many of you out there are thinking, well, my family gets heart disease, my family gets cancer, my family's got diabetes, I'm screwed. And if that's the case, I'm screwed too, because my family has heart disease and cancer rampantly. Half of my family gets cancer, half gets heart disease. So I don't really stand a chance. So if I looked at genetics, I would think I have no shot at this. You might be thinking that, why should I bother eating right or exercising and doing things that are, maybe transformational when I have no chance at all because of the amount of genetic problems you have in your family? Well, I'm here to tell you genetics does not play as big a role as you thought. Genetics is not as big an issue. Why? Because it turns out you can change your genes. Time magazine did an article on this where they talked about the different studies that have been done where it shows how your choices you make, the way you live, the way you eat, the way you think, your mind can actually transform your genes. It could actually cut and splice and resequence your genes so that your body can express health. Just because you have the genes for cancer or heart disease does not mean that you're going to turn them on. The way you think, the way you take care of your body, the way you eat, the way you exercise or don't exercise is going to determine whether you turn genes on or off. It says right here, the new science of epigenetics reveals how the choices you make can actually change your genes and those of your children. Did you realize you can actually change your genes? Yes, you can if you know what to do. So epigenetics is a game changer because now it puts your control of your health right in your own hands, right? Wouldn't you want that? You want to take control of your health. You don't want, the worst place you could ever be, guys, is when a doctor or someone else is in control of your health. You want to be in control of your health, and I want to give you that control because God created your body to be healthy and well. Sickness and disease is abnormal. Health and wellness is your normal state. You can't blame bad luck, bad germs, or bad genes anymore. It's all up to you. Your choices determine whether you're going to be building health and wellness or building sickness and disease. It comes down to your choices. All right? This child came into my office, 4 years old. Her name was Annalise. She came in cute as a button. I'll tell you, she looked so much, reminded me so much of my daughter Ariana, who's about the same age. She was 4 years old at the time too. And she came in, and I was trying to build a little rapport with her, get her to laugh, get her to smile a little bit, you know. And I started goofing around with her because I saw she had a fanny pack on. And I said, what do you have in your little fanny pack? Do you keep any coins or stickers or a little lipstick or something in there? And her mom said to me, that's her insulin pump. And I literally wanted to crawl under a chair because I didn't know what to say. And the mom was cool about it. She said, listen, you know what? Don't worry about it. You didn't know. We hide the little tube really well so you don't see the tube. But she's been diagnosed with type 1 diabetes since she was about 27 months old. She writes in her testimonial here that she literally has no life, that her daughter can't go on play dates, has to change schools because they can't find a proper school nurse, can't go to sleepovers. Imagine this is your child. I have 4 daughters myself. I couldn't imagine if this was one of my daughters. She can't go on play dates, like I said, because of all the risks. She can't just jump in a pool, can't jump in a leaf pile, can't play on a trampoline like all the other kids. And the mom said she, like I said, had no life. So when she brought her in, I checked her out, I did an exam, and I took an x-ray of her. So seeing this curve in her x-ray, you don't even have to be a chiropractor to see that, how bent it is. And imagine if that wasn't corrected, how curved she would be by the time she was 14 or 24 or 44 for that matter. But once again, I saw that curve and I knew exactly where that controlled. So I knew that this part of her spine right here where the curve was, that part controls her pancreas. So I got excited because I knew that if I could turn that part on, get the nerves here working better, that I could actually improve the function of her pancreas. So I get excited, but you know, the mom wasn't too excited about it because she said, you know what, I appreciate your enthusiasm, I see your passion about it, but you know what, this is genetic. You can't fix a genetic disorder. This is genetic. And I said, okay, I dialed it back a little bit. I said, okay, I'll calm down a little bit. But I still had inside of me this desire to help her, and I knew I could. So we started adjusting her. And right away, the mom started noticing a change in her blood sugar levels. She was getting lethargic because as we were turning on that pancreas, her blood sugar was going to drop too low. So she started having to dial down the insulin pump. And the dad, you know how dads are, they just like disconnect the thing, they just pull it out. And the wife was like, don't disconnect it because then the doctors can't read the chip that's in that insulin pump. And so she went away on a trip. And she wrote in her testimonial that here, she went away for 10 days. And on the trip, her blood sugar went to 500. Now, 500 would put you or me in a coma. Okay, I don't know how she survived it, but children can handle a lot better than we can. Up to 500. She said after her first adjustment back, her blood sugar immediately went back to normal, 100 to 120. Now all of a sudden, I had the mom's attention because she wasn't making the connection before. She wasn't making the connection that correcting her spine and nerve system was actually helping turn her pancreas on. Think of it like a dimmer switch. If you're turning that dimmer switch down, the lights go down. Well, misalignments in her spine, which I'll talk about later on, we call subluxation, was damaging or interfering with her nerve system. And it was causing the pancreas to produce less insulin. Once we started turning that back on, her blood sugar started to drop more because now her pancreas was working. Does that make sense? So now I had her attention. So the mom comes back, she gets this adjustment, everything is working out better. They go to her endocrinologist to have another test done. So the doctor comes walking out, he says, what's going on? What are you doing? Are you on a special diet or exercise program? And he's holding the documentation right in his hands, the test results. And the mom says, no, we're going to a chiropractor. The guy's like, what? A chiropractor did this? How does a chiropractor do this? And so I called him up, and I took him out to lunch. We went out to a brunch place, and I showed him this x-ray right here. And within 3 months, we had her spine straighter. So her spine was a lot straighter, and what did that mean? That meant that her nerve supply now to her pancreas was working better. Now, did I cure her diabetes? No. But like I said before, your body has the ability to function and heal and work at God-given levels. So all I did was remove the interference. And we like to say in our office that God does the healing. I just remove the interference. That's how it works. God doesn't need any help. Just remove the interference. And if you remove the interference, the body does what it knows how to do. It started making its own insulin. So with a spine straighter like this, she was working better. Her body was working better. Her body was healing better and functioning better and doing everything it knew to do better. So the question I have for you is this then. What do you base your health on? Because if health is your greatest asset, what do you base it on? Well, a lot of you tend to base it on how you feel, right? Whether I have energy or not, if I wake up in pain or not, how do I feel? Well, here's the problem with how you feel. Is it possible that you could feel great and yet drop dead of a heart attack? Absolutely. In fact, what percentage of people would you say knew you were going to have a heart attack? How about 0? Because you would say, hey, you know what? If I knew I was going to have a heart attack, I'd have the ambulance waiting for me. Or better yet, you might say, hey, honey, let's drive to the hospital right now. I'm going to have that heart attack in about 20 minutes. No. You don't see it. You don't feel it. In fact, you think of these 2 top disease killers we have in our country, heart disease and cancer. What are they called? What's their nickname? Do you know? Yeah, they're called silent killers. Silent killers. Because you don't feel it. You don't feel the heart clogging up. You don't feel the cancer developing. My mother didn't feel it. She had no idea it was coming. Not until she was laying on the floor trying to get up and realized that it moved to her pelvis and she couldn't move her legs, or her arm was flailing around because she had a brain tumor and couldn't control her arm. She didn't see the cancer developing. My dad didn't see the heart disease developing on him when he dropped dead twice in the 90s. Now, fortunately, we had doctors that were great emergency trauma and crisis care doctors that were able to revitalize him, put the pallets on him and jumpstart him. But he never saw it coming. He never knew the heart disease was coming. When my brother had quintuple bypass surgery, he never saw it coming. So the 2 top disease killers that we think of in the United States, heart disease and cancer, you will never see coming if you base it on how you feel. You can't do that, all right? And you can't base it on how you look. How many times you hear people say, Jim was never sick a day in his life. He looked great. In fact, I was just playing golf with him the other day, beat my butt. He killed me in tennis too. He was just jogging with his dog. He looks great. Then he dropped out of a heart attack. Jim was the sickest guy in the neighborhood and didn't even know it. All right? So here's the problem. We can't base our health on how we feel because this is the issue. This is the problem right here. Symptoms equal crisis. By the time that symptom shows up, you are already in the crisis. The crisis is already there. So when the symptom hits, you've already got arteries blocked at 95%. You've already got arteries blocked at 98%. They're not blocked at 22%. They're blocked in the 90s. When my dad got checked, they said 2 of our arteries are blocked at 100%, and the other ones were blocked in 98, 95, 92%. Never saw it coming, never felt it. So here's the problem. What we tend to do, say, for example, you're driving around, and you see the engine lights go on in your car, and you do what everybody else would do, normal person. You drive into a service station, and you happen to be in an area outside of your normal town. You drive into a service station, a guy comes out, he takes a look, he says, you know what, we can take a look at your car. We're certified in these kind of cars. In fact, why don't you go ahead and have a seat in the lounge? There's some donuts and coffee and Danish over there. It's not a keto kind of car place. I don't know if I'd eat there. But anyway, have some Danish, have some coffee, relax in the lounge, and then we'll come out and get you. And a little while later, he comes out and gets you, and you see this on your car. And you're thinking, so that's how you fixed my car? Oh, yeah, you'll never see those pesky engine lights again. Those lights are gone. You're never going to see them. In fact, we even took extra precautions. We went behind your dash and we cut the wires. So those lights are never going to come on again. We fixed it. And you're thinking, I think you're a moron. You're certified, but you're not certified in fixing cars. And somehow he thinks he fixed it. Well, the reality is all you did was mask the symptoms. Well, the same thing happens, guys, when we take our medications and we put it and we take it for a headache, or we take it for our heart, or we take it for our lungs, or we take it for our stomachs, or I have shoulder pain, let me take it for that. And all I'm doing is medicating the problems away because that's what my doctor said to do. Well, do you really think your heart or your head, let's just say your head for a second, do you really think you have that headache because your body is craving Tylenol? Do you really think you're somehow Tylenol deficient? That's why you have these problems? Or somehow if we take a chemical and it lowers your blood pressure into a fictitious normal range of 120/80, that somehow your heart is healthy now. We didn't do anything to make your heart healthy. All we did was lower the numbers, which were the symptoms. The numbers were the symptoms. And somehow now your heart is healthy. Does that make sense? Or you took a pill that made your stomach pain go away, and now somehow your stomach is fine. Does that really make sense? The reality is all the medications are doing is blocking or masking your symptoms, just like we did this. That's why I said earlier, what you may be doing isn't working out. In fact, if it was working, we wouldn't have so many people with heart disease, cancer, diabetes in our country. We'd have a lot more healthier people. But all we're doing is medicating the problems away, medicating the symptoms away, thinking that's making us healthier because just we don't have the symptom anymore. So we need to come up with a better definition of health because this isn't working. And this is why we have more people with heart disease, more people with cancer and diabetes, despite the fact you have more doctors, more drugs than ever before, more drugs are coming through the pipeline, and yet we're getting sicker and sicker and sicker as a country. What we're doing is not working out. So, like I said, part of the purpose of this discussion is to get you out of a system that's not working. Now, once again, is it working for crisis, emergency, and trauma? Yes. But is it working for health? No. All right? So let's get you out of the system and come up with a new definition of health. The definition of health I like, and it's very simple, very clean, is health equals 100% function. I want you to think about that for a second. It's very simple. Health is equal to 100% function. If I was to ask you if every single cell in your heart was working at 100%, okay? 100%, optimal health. Can you have heart disease? Think about it. Do, 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 do. You can't have sickness and disease in your heart, okay? I'll let you off the hook there. What about if every single cell in your lung was working at 100% or optimally? Can you have lung disease? And I won't do it. No, you can't have lung disease. If every cell is working at 100%, you can't have disease there. You cannot have sickness and disease in the same cell. It doesn't exist. So for example, if I was to turn off the lights in my office, or you turn off the lights in your room, do you all of a sudden turn on the darkness switch? Did you all of a sudden turn on some switch that dark, icky, gooey substance just oozed into the room and made it dark? No, of course not. All you did was remove the light. You didn't make darkness. Darkness is not a thing. Darkness is the absence of light. Now, what you need to understand is this. Sickness is the absence of health. Health is your normal state. Health is the way God created you to be. Sickness is an abnormal state, which means it's the absence of health. So if you think about it that way, and you do everything you can to drive your health into the direction of 100% function, that's what makes you healthy and well. So the question becomes this: what makes everything function? It's your brain. Your brain controls and coordinates the function of every single cell, tissue, and organ of your body. So for your heart to beat and your lungs to breathe, it doesn't happen because you ate broccoli. It happens because your brain is sending electrical impulses to all the different parts. For your stomach to digest, for your pancreas to make the perfect amount of insulin, for your liver to make bile to digest fats, and for your intestines to absorb nutrients and remove waste, your brain has to send electrical impulses down your spinal cord, out through the nerves to every single cell, tissue, and organ. In fact, there's over 75 trillion cells in your body, and your brain receives between 10 to 12 trillion bits of information per second. In fact, our Creator knew that this system was so important. It's the only system in your body that is completely surrounded and protected by solid bone. That's how important your central nervous system is. In fact, if you think of your spine like a fuse panel, that's going to help you get the picture in your head of how important it is to take care of your spine and nerve system when? Forever, on a regular basis. You should be taking care of your spine and nerve system from birth to the day you die, okay? As we say, not to sound morbid, but the womb to the tomb, all right? You should be taking care of your spine and nerve system, and we'll talk about why in just a moment. But if you think of it like a fuse panel and you realize that, hey, if you turn some of these fuses off in your house, the garbage disposal is not going to work. The jacuzzi tub in the master bedroom is not going to work. Maybe the bathroom, the kid's bathroom light's not going to work, okay? The garage light's turned off, the refrigerator or whatever. All these switches control every receptacle, every appliance in your house. The same thing is with your body. Every one of the nerves in your spinal cord coordinate and control through the brain, sends messages down the spinal cord nerves out to every cell, tissue, and organ of your body. So if you think of it that way, you understand how well this works. In fact, Hippocrates said this: Look well to the spine for the cause of disease. He said this over 2,000 years ago. Look well to the spine for the cause of disease. They knew back then, the ancients knew, that when you damage the spine and nerve system, that it can cause sickness and disease to the body. Think about this. If you cut the nerve to your heart, what happens? You die, right? What if you don't cut the nerve to your heart, but you pinch the nerve to your heart? You die slower. Same thing. That's why our Creator, God, or whatever you choose to call it, surrounded the spinal cord with solid bone. Solid bone. Your brain is protected by your skull. It's like a helmet. Some of the hardest bones are in your skull. I've been told I'm a hard head, so now you know why. Spinal cord is surrounded or protected by individual vertebrae. The vertebrae look like armor. I mean, it literally looks like a dinosaur skeleton, armor, protecting all the delicate nerves. Now, God created our body to be able to move, so we're not like a ramrod. We're not all fused together. There's discs in between that are separating all the vertebrae. So between every vertebra, there's a disc, and there's also a nerve. You can see it right there. So you have a vertebra, a disc, and a nerve. Vertebra, disc, nerve, all the way down. And the vertebra form an opening, and the disc provides the space for that, for the nerves to come out. So that way on both sides, these nerves can branch to all the different organs. So from the front, it should look like this, just like that, nice and straight. We want to see it look straight. What do you think would happen if a patient came into me like this? Would that patient be healthy or sick? What do you think? No, sick. This patient is sick. In fact, this patient is so sick that doctors take this very seriously, and what they do is they get rods like this. Ow, that hurts. Rods, stainless steel rods, and they will screw them right into the spine, just like this. They will screw them in place, drill it in with wood screws, or stainless steel wood screws, to hold the spine in place so it doesn't get worse. Why? Because they know that the spine and nerve system controls all the organs. If the spine starts to move further and further out of alignment, now it's compressing and damaging the delicate spinal nerves. Think of the spine basically as a cable, just like this. We have wires coming down all the way down, and this would be right on your back like this. Okay? And all the messages travel down, and they exit out through all the different nerves. Little toe, pancreas, spleen, kidneys, large intestine, small intestine, heart, they branch off all the way down. So that's how this all works. Now, like I said, if the patient has a rod in their back, they're doing that to try to protect the patient, but unknowingly it's actually making them worse. When Michelle was 16 years old, doctors diagnosed her with scoliosis. So what they did is they went and put these rods into her back, just like that. So when they put these rods in her back, they were trying to keep the spine straight. Now back then when they did this is going back probably 40 years ago, they used to wire the spine into place with chicken wire. So what they would do is take the metal rod, and they would take chicken wire and just loop it around, all the way around just like this, to get the rod to be held in place. Now, when Michelle was 17, the rods started coming loose. And when they came loose, this was actually a good thing for Michelle because she didn't have these rods in her back anymore, but it was a bad thing in that once they took the rods out, her spine curved more. And rather than telling her to go to a chiropractor, the spine kept curving more and more. Now, why does it do that? Well, what is gravity doing all the time? Gravity is pulling us down. So as gravity is pulling down, it's making curves worse. That's why when doctors tell you, well, we're just going to monitor this. In fact, in the early stages, maybe a 2, 5, 10-degree curve right here, they're going to say, let's just watch and wait. Let's monitor it. Well, what's that going to do? You're just going to watch and get worse. That's really what's going to happen. Because then when it gets up to 25 to 30 degrees, they're going to want bracing on it. And by the time it gets to 35 to 40 degrees, that's when they're going to want to put a Harrington rod in, like I just showed you. So now Michelle is worse off than she ever was before. Think about this. She's got organs that are shifting back and forth. She's got her heart and lungs that are moving to the side, kidneys, liver shifting side to side. How is that affecting her health? When she's got her spinal cord that's now getting torqued and twisted and bent in all different directions, how's that affecting how her body's expressing health and wellness? Obviously, she's getting sicker and sicker because this is what's carrying her life messages all the way down through her body. So then she comes to see me 37 years later like this. All I could do at this point is maybe keep it from getting worse. But this never had to happen. This never had to happen. Now, from the side, when we look at the spine, now the side you can have curves. So once again, we want to be straight from the front, but from the side we want curves. We want a curve here, and in the lumbar's curve here. So the neck curve and the lumbar curve are the same. They're just like this. Thoracic curve is opposite. So 3 curves. There's technically a 4th, but the 4th one is fused. Now, when we look at the neck has to have a curve because we want shock absorption here, just like that. We want to be able to have the shock absorption. And when you do this, just like if you took your hand, it's nice and soft. So if you curve your hand like that, you can feel how soft it is. Well, when it's like that, your spinal cord is relaxed. It's curved the way it's supposed to be, just like a banana. A banana's curved like this. The skin goes along it like that. That's the way it's designed. Well, your neck is designed the same way. It's designed to have a curve. When it has a curve, the vertebrae are loaded correctly. There's less pressure and the spinal cord is relaxed. Now, what would happen if we took our head or neck and shifted it forward like this and bent it? Well, I could tell you in football, you never want to run into someone like this with your head down. You always want to keep your head up. Because if you have your head down, it could snap down and break, and you can actually break your neck. This is the worst way to actually have your neck, is in this downward position. When it's forward like this, that's when you start to see stretching. When you start to see stretching and something called tethering, which means the spinal cord could actually fray, when you see stretching here, doctors call this pathological tension, which means a disease-forming tension, because now the spinal cord is getting stretched forward. And as long as it gets stretched forward like this, it's now pulling the brain stem, which sits right here, down inside the spinal canal. And as long as that's happening, now it becomes a very dangerous area. And if you ever wonder just how important the neck is when it comes to health of your overall body, you have to think of what happened with Christopher Reeve. Christopher Reeve, on an emotional level, was an amazing, amazing person. He could bring you to tears in his speeches. He was so inspirational. But on a physical level, he was a total tragedy. When Christopher Reeve, for many of you might not know what happened with him, fell off a horse at just a horse exhibition. He was at a horse show and just celebrity there and was riding around and was doing some jumps. The horse stopped. Christopher Reeve's hand got caught in the reins. When he couldn't get his hands out, he went over the top of the horse, and because he couldn't get his hands out, he couldn't brace his fall. And instead, his head smashed into the ground and snapped his neck. Doctors knew that if he had his head positioned in a few degrees in a different direction, he probably would have just sprained it. But instead, he crushed the top bones in his neck, and they were driven into the spinal cord. 1 centimeter of damage turned off his heart and lungs. He couldn't breathe anymore. He couldn't breathe anymore from that injury to the day he died. He was on a ventilator, a respirator, all because he hurt his neck. He didn't hurt his lungs. He didn't fall on something that pierced his lung. He hurt his neck. Because he hurt his neck, it affected how his heart worked, his pancreas, his liver. Christopher Reeve knew he hurt every organ in his body when he hurt his neck. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, well, I don't have an injury like Christopher Reeve, so why are you talking to me about this? You might not have an injury like Christopher Reeve, but if you injure the same areas, even if his was a centimeter, you might move it a millimeter. It still puts enough pressure to cause neurological disorders, maybe ear infections, tonsil problems. Doctors like to pull on the head and neck when a baby's being born. When they do that, what they actually do is cause a shifting of the top bone of the neck, and it closes off at the brainstem level. That will actually cause tonsil problems, adenoid issues, sinus infections, headaches, migraines, ADD, all these different things, all coming from an upper neck problem, not to mention what it does to the whole rest of the body. Now, other thing that I'm always concerned about is what's happening right now in epidemic levels. How many people do you see on their phones like this? How many people do you see on a computer like this? How many people do you see watching TV like this? Maybe that's you. Maybe you're the same way. You spend hours on a computer like this. You know it. Your posture is getting worse and worse. Maybe you see these kids that are playing with their phones all day long, looking at them like this. When you're doing that, you're getting what we call tech neck. And tech neck is an epidemic right now. But the danger of it, I want to go over because it's extremely, extremely dangerous. Tech neck is when the head is in a forward position to the rest of the spine. And when it does that, it's stretching the spinal cord. Now, what the Journal of the American Geriatric Society said was this. Hyperkyphotic posture was specifically associated with an increased rate of death due to atherosclerosis. Now, what does that mean? That means when your neck is forward like this, it causes heart disease. Now, why does it cause heart disease? It causes heart disease because the nerves in the front of your neck go to your heart. So as you can see, the nerves in the front here control the function of your heart. So if you put your head into this forward head posture and you're crushing and irritating the nerves in the front of your neck, it's actually shutting your heart down. Now let me ask you, if you were to cut the nerves to your heart, what would happen? Of course, unfortunately, you would die. But what if you pinch or crush or irritate the nerves that go to your heart? Well, the same thing happens. The heart becomes diseased, but it's just a slower process. But the end result is the same. And that is what the biggest problem is with this epidemic of tech neck. It's causing damage to your heart, and you don't even know about it. So now, this forward head posture is creating all kinds of health issues. And I really feel in my heart of hearts, it's going to be a major problem if we don't get a handle on this and start doing things to either get to a chiropractor or improve our posture. Now, when we look at neck x-rays, this is what we're looking at. So whenever I evaluate a patient that comes into my office, I'm looking at their neck, but I'm looking at the whole spine. What we're seeing here can apply anywhere. It could be in the neck, mid-back, and low back, but we're just going to be addressing the neck right now. So what you're looking at here, you're actually looking at the neck just like that. Okay? So what we're seeing here is the neck curve. This is where the person's jaw is. This is where the back of their skull is. So they're looking that way, so we're looking at the neck right here. And the first thing you notice about it, and this is what we're always looking for, is we want to see a nice neck curve. Because when the neck is curved properly, that means the brain is able to get messages out to the body at 100%. Think of it like a fire hose. When the brain and the spinal cord are all lined up the way they're supposed to be, and the vertebrae are all lined up, and the discs are happy, your brain is sending messages down like it's a fire hose fully open. Body's working at 100%. Now, what's the first thing we notice about this x-ray here? When you're looking at this one, you have to notice immediately that the spine is too straight. And as I said before, when the spine is too straight, now you don't have the shock absorption. Now it's causing what we call pathological tension. It's a tension on the spinal cord. Pathological meaning disease forming. So it's a pathological tension on the spinal cord. It's now stretching the spinal cord. The brain stem, which normally sits up inside the base of the skull, is now getting pulled down. And as it's getting pulled down, it's now being affected by the top bone shifting out of alignment. If that top bone shifts and it moves out of alignment, this is what the top bone looks like right here. It's a big ring like this, and this sits right here. In fact, if you feel your skull and then come off your skull, and all of a sudden you feel a soft spot. That soft spot is where this bone sits. And this bone sits literally at the top of your spinal cord, just like that. Just like that. Can you see that? So everything has to go through that first. That's where Christopher Reeve got crushed. And that's where they had to fuse these bones. So this top bone, if it shifts side to side or rotates and torques, it can put direct pressure on your brainstem. That's why this is so critical. As soon as you go into this phase, it can cause major problems. Now, this phase is 100% correctable. So a patient in this phase, we can fix. We can get it right back to here. But if we don't fix it, it's going to go to the next stage. And in the next stage, now we see decay. Now we're starting to see disc bulges, bone spurs, disc deterioration. And what we're doing is we're going from this, just like this, where you see how nice those disc spaces are. You see how nice and clean they are, smooth, because it's large and they're parallel. The nerve has plenty of room to come out. Now, what do you notice about this? This is now this stage right here. Where we're in this stage, now you see these, what's called lipping and spurring. That's a generic term, but it really means osteoarthritis or arthritis. So now you see all these sharp edges. It literally feels like a knife edge right here, and that's right where the nerve is coming out. Not only that, as the disc is now thinned out, now you can see that disc is a lot thinner. Because it's now thinner, it's now making the hole for the nerve to exit a lot smaller. And now that nerve is getting crushed. So when somebody says you have arthritis, you have to understand that's a serious problem. But people think, oh, it's arthritis, everybody's got it, I'm 65, you're supposed to have it. No, arthritis means that your spine is deteriorating. And here's something you need to know. If your spine is deteriorating, your nerves are deteriorating. And if your nerves are deteriorating, then your organs are deteriorating. And that is the single most destructive problem that we see with subluxation degeneration. Now, this phase here, we can get it better, but we cannot correct it at 100%. Can I improve it? Yes. Can we make the discs a little thicker? Yes, we can do that. But we can never get this back to normal the way it's supposed to be. Now, very important to understand, the spinal cord is being compressed by these disc bulges, bone spurs right here. There's something up here called stenosing where this narrows, and if this narrows, it's going to start to block the entire spine. This is the level right here where we start to see the heart disease, the cancers, things like that, because it takes years for this to develop. This is not something that happens overnight, but it's also not something that's supposed to happen to you just because you're older. It's something that takes years to develop. Now, if this isn't stopped here, which like I said, if we can stop a patient in this phase, they're going to have a better quality of life, less pain, maybe pain-free, organs work better, the body's going to heal and function better. If it's not stopped though, it's going to go to the last phase where you see complete disc loss. Spinal cord, as you can see right here, is literally withered away to nothing. It's like a withered away vine. That's what we see here, where now there's no spacing between it anymore. It's now bone on bone, as you can see right there. Literally bone on bone. And of course, if it's bone on bone, what's happening to the nerve back here? That nerve is getting crushed. The nerve is crushed, the organ is shutting down. So one of the things I always tell my patients is this: when we look at your x-rays, and you're looking at where your problem is, you have to think to yourself, where does that nerve go? Because that nerve is shutting something down now. If that nerve is being crushed or compressed, it's shutting something down. When Carl came in to see me, we took x-rays. This is his neck, this is his low back. I'm going to post these so you'll be able to see them on the video. It's a little tough to see here, but what we're looking at is a side view of his neck. Here's his teeth right here. Here's the back of his skull. Once again, what we're looking at is this, just like that. And what we're seeing is very thin discs. Very thin discs. He's got a big bone spur here, big bone spur here. Thin discs again, but this one's fine. Now wait a minute. If you're supposed to get degeneration when you get older like he is at about 65, shouldn't they all be degenerative because they're all the same age? Well, in this case, this disc is perfectly healthy. It's perfectly fine. Well, how could that be? All these bones are the same age, and yet they're supposed to all wear out. No, he had injuries in different places. This one wasn't injured. These were. So as a result, his spine started going through the degenerative phases. So he is phase 2, which means there's still a little bit of space left, different than phase 3. Okay, here's phase 3. So phase 2, there's still some disc material left. That's spacing right in there that you see. Now, once again, the question you have to ask yourself is, where does that nerve go? Where are these nerves that are being crushed? What are they controlling that's now shutting down? Next, Carl was a pilot in the Navy, then he was a pilot for Delta. So as you can imagine, what did he do all of his life? He sits, just like so many of us. You might be out there watching us thinking, I sit a lot, I'm on a computer all day long. And then you wonder why your low back's bothering you. You got numbness and tingling down your legs, your feet are swollen, things like that. Well, he sat in a plane all the time, and he absolutely crushed his low back. Now, it's a little difficult to see here. Once again, I'll post this picture so you'll be able to see it. But in this case, he was a phase 3 in his low back, which meant it was bone on bone. You can see there's spacing here, spacing there, all the way down. But when you get to the last two, those last two segments are literally fusing together. There's no space between it. So now, once again, what's happening to that nerve? That nerve is getting crushed. Now, where does that nerve go? Well, let's take a look. We're going to start with this one. So what do we see here? This is now an x-ray of him from here to here. And we see this right here. Now, a lot of you, I know you're going to jump on that and think it's got to be a pacemaker. No, it's not a pacemaker. It's a defibrillator. So what happens is when his heart goes into atrial fibrillation, it shocks him back into rhythm. So he's literally got something inside of his body that will shock him right back into rhythm. He's got a wire that comes here all the way in. You can see here he's got the wiring. It's like chicken wire that they use that put his sternum back together. Now they use glue for this, but back then they used to just crack them open and wire it back together. So the defibrillator, why is it there? It's there because the nerves in his neck are being shut down. So those nerves in the lower part of his neck, as we talked about earlier, control his heart. So if those nerves are getting crushed and damaged because of the degeneration of his discs, it's going to affect the electrical activity going to his heart. If his body's not making normal electricity, because your body's an electrical generator, if it's not making normal electricity sending it to the heart, you need the artificial electricity. Does that make sense? That's what's happening here. Now, over here, once again, it may be a little bit difficult to see, but when I post a picture, you'll see it. Right here, there's a lot of white dots. They look like rice. Now, what do you think those could be? No, I'm not going to do it. That's prostate cancer. Now, the prostate cancer is not the white dots. Those are the radiation seeds. The radiation seeds are there to keep the prostate cancer at bay. So he had full-blown prostate cancer right here. Now, why would he have that? Well, if you remember the previous x-ray over here, what was happening to the nerves in his low back? They were getting crushed. And those nerves in his low back control his prostate, as you can see here. So when you crush the nerves in the low back, and as we talked about, he's got degenerative disc disease in his lower back where it's bone on bone, very close together with no disc, virtually fusing. It's shutting down and crushing the nerves that go to his prostate. And as we talked about earlier, when those nerves are shut down, the prostate becomes diseased because it's not getting the correct mental impulses from the brain. So it doesn't make normal cells, and those cells become cancerous. So think about this. If you had a tourniquet and you wrapped it around your wrist and you literally were choking off your hand's going to die. So you put a tourniquet there or a rope, your hand's going to die. Is it going to matter if you eat right or exercise? Not at all. Is it going to matter if you pray about it or think positive thoughts or drink good water or alkalize yourself or maybe put lotion on or cream? Maybe you exercise it a little bit. Maybe you do some massage on it. Is that going to help your hand? No, your hand is dying and rotting off. It's not going to matter if you put antibiotics on it anymore because it's literally rotting off. So what's the answer? Well, the answer is take the pressure off. Let life flow back in. Because if you're blocking off life, you're going to form diseased tissue, or shutting off the function. Remember I said earlier, health is equal to 100% function. I'm blocking function. If I block function, disease starts. Cells die. Cells decompose. Organs rot. That's basically, sorry, but that's what's happening. So the answer to this is not creams, shots, lotion, potions, massage, exercise, acupuncture, cupping, or anything like that. It's to release the pressure, let life go back in. Life is the healer here. Life is doing all the healing. It's not the shots, the lotions, and the potions. It's life energy. That's what does all the healing. So we were able to help him by opening up the nerve channels in his low back. We did the same thing here with Dave. When Dave came to me, he had full-blown prostate cancer. Normally, prostate is measured at a level of 0 to 4. Anything above 4, they get concerned about it, could be prostate cancer. Well, his was 12.23. He came to me at an event at a screening. I was doing a health fair, and he said, Doc, I don't know if you can help me or not. I'm about to go to Canada, have a procedure done that's $25,000. And I don't want to have to spend that. I said, well, let's see what we can do to help you first. Because if I find what we call subluxation in your low back, which means that the nerves are being pinched off here, that's what we call subluxations, when the vertebra misalign, pinching off the nerve. If that's shutting down nerves to your prostate, I can help you because we'll correct that. So I said, but the only way to know is come in and get an evaluation. We took an x-ray. Sure enough, his spine was curved off towards the left side, and we started adjusting him, which means we started putting gentle pressure and thrust into his spine to align it better. Now, what ended up happening was this. Within 2 months, his PSA level went from 12.23, which is 300% higher than it's supposed to be. It went from 12.23 to 5.2. Now, it gets better. When we tested him again, or when he went back to his doctor right here, and here's his doctor's phone number here, you can call him and find out. When he got tested again, 10 months into care, his PSA level was normal. The doctor wrote right here 3.04, and he even wrote the word normal there. Now, like I said, I don't claim to cure him. I didn't do that. But I found the problem. We fixed the problem. We didn't mask it with drugs. And his body healed itself. Now, does that make sense? We took the pressure off, and his body started to heal itself. That's all it is. Like I said, God doesn't need help. He needs no interference. And when you're interfering, you're shutting off life. That's how it works. Deepak Chopra, one of the top medical doctors in the world, said all disease results from the interruption of the flow of intelligence. The intelligence that's flowing. So if I was to ask you this, how does your body regulate blood pressure? How does it regulate heart rate? How does it regulate anything? How does it regulate respiration? How does it control all these things? Is it from the outside in, or does it control it from the inside out? Well, the answer is, ready? it controls it from the inside out, right? That's the law of the body. This is the way it's been for millennium, thousands of years. Everything is controlled from the inside out. Your brain sends messages down to all your organs send messages back up. It's a perfect feedback loop. Messages go down, messages go back. Your brain senses or gets a signal that there's some kind of cancer cells down here. The cells are notified that they need to go attack it. They start to attack it. Your immune system's put into high gear, just like special forces, special ops, Navy SEALs, they go kill the cancer cells. You have attacks of cancer probably 6-7 times in your lifetime, and you'll never know about it because your body beats it up. Your body kills the cancer. It's designed to do that as long as it's not interfered with. As long as this feedback loop works, your heart works the way it's supposed to, your blood pressure is the way it's supposed to be, every organ works the way it's supposed to be. But somewhere along the lines, probably through drug company ads and marketing and TV and so on, we started seeing this. We started saying, well, you need drugs. You need potions, lotions, shots, surgeries. We need to put injections in, take pills, IV, cut, creams, lotions, all these different things. That's what's going to make us well, right? But that's against the law of the body. That's not how the body works. If we know that the body works from the inside out, and all these things are working from the outside in, does it make sense that this isn't what's getting us well? This is just masking the problem. Or, best yet, giving us time for the body to heal. And I'm okay with that. If you're giving time for the body to heal, I'm okay with that. But the problem is, everybody's doing this only. And if you're doing that, you've got to know that your health is dependent on you taking care of it from the inside out, not the outside in. Keto diet's not going to change this. Paleo diet's not going to change it. Exercise isn't going to change it. It's going to change by you making sure you're taking care of the single most important thing in your body, your spine and nerve system. In fact, because we're so caught up in this model of sickness and disease and drugs and so on and so forth, most people end up like this, with enormous hospital bills, because they're never taking care of their bodies. $227,000 for a week in the hospital. The pharmaceutical bill alone was $43,000. And this person still died of 4 things right here that are 100% preventable. Everything this person died of, 100% preventable. So you can't blame bad luck, bad germs, bad genes. You can't blame your mom and your dad. It's up to you. It's the choices you make. It's all about the choices you make. So about this time, a lot of patients start to ask me, well, what's the most important thing? What should we be doing to be healthy and well? And I say this, if it works on a corpse, it's the most important thing. Now, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, Doc, you just lost me there. This whole thing was making some sense. Now, all of a sudden, you just went off the rails into the deep end. What are you talking about if it works on a corpse? Well, I want you to think about something. You have a corpse. It's got the same body parts you do. It's got a brain, a spinal cord. It's got heart, lungs, spleen, kidneys, intestines, colon, bladder, reproductive organs. It's got everything you have. But what's it lacking? It's lacking one thing. The one thing it's lacking is life energy, right? You could give that corpse broccoli. It's not going to matter. You can give that corpse the most alkaline, healthy water. You can give that corpse the most, put them in a barometric chamber with the freshest oxygen. You can do a lot of things with that corpse. You can exercise the corpse if you can move its arms, but yet it's not going to come back to life and it's not going to get well. You can cut the arm on a corpse and it's not going to matter. Why? Because it's dead. One thing I tell my patients a lot is if you don't believe that, I want you to go to the store, or better yet, one of our newest favorite sponsors at ButcherBox, and order a filet from them. Order a filet, grass-fed, grass-finished filet from ButcherBox, and I want you to cut it. And cut that filet, and then I want you to take mercurochrome, iodine, neosporin, Bactine, CBD oil. I want you to put vitamin E, vitamin C, all these different things in it, wrap it up in a nice sterile gauze bandage, hook an IV up to if you want to, and you call me when it heals. Right? Write in that comment section that it healed, right? It's never going to heal. It's never going to heal. Why? It doesn't have life energy in it. The single most important thing is life energy. All right? Of the top 4, let's talk about this, the essentials to human life. You think about that. You can live without food for, 30, 40 days, water 1 to 2 weeks, oxygen, 3 minutes maybe tops, unless you're a deep sea diver and you're just so used to holding your breath that long. Nerve supply, instantaneous, just like that. it's over. You cut across here, you do something to damage your brainstem, it's over. Doesn't matter. Single most important thing is nerve supply. Not because I'm a chiropractor. It's the most important thing. It's what makes everything work. If this isn't working, it doesn't matter how much oxygen you take in. You're not going to utilize it. It doesn't matter how much water you drink or how clean it is. It doesn't matter how organic you eat. It's not going to matter at all because this isn't working right. And not only that, the other thing too is this. Even if you're doing everything right, eating the best foods, exercising, prayer, meditation, and we're perfectly detoxed, if you had nerve damage to your heart, to where your heart was shutting down at, say, 20%, what's happening here? Not to sound morbid, but you're dying. Even though you're doing everything else right, you're still dying because as long as you've got damage to the nerves to your heart and your heart is shutting down, you are developing heart disease. And the worst part about this is you don't even know it. And you won't know it until it's too late. And why is that? Because heart disease, like cancer and so many other diseases that we see today, are silent. You don't know they're coming. And you don't know they're coming until it's too late. What if that was happening to your child, your daughter, your son, your spouse, and you never knew it? That's why we urge everybody to get checked to see if there's interference to their nerve system that they were never known about or they were never told about. And you would never know about it because it happens silently. This became evident in a case like this where we took care of little Jared here. Now I'll give you a little background. Margot was a patient of mine. All the boys were patients of mine. The dad was a patient of mine. Jared, he was 6 weeks old. Now, you wouldn't think to bring a 6-week-old to a chiropractor's office. Why would you? They don't have back pain. They don't have neck pain. What, you check a kid that small? Well, we do. My kids have all been adjusted since they were hours old. So when Jared was in the hospital, he was bleeding out of his rectum. He couldn't hold food down. He was throwing up 10 to 20 times a day. Couldn't be breastfed. Verge of dehydration. They put in tubes from top to bottom, did barium swallow studies to see what's going on. Why can't he hold food down? Why is his rectum bleeding? What's going on? They couldn't figure it out. And after weeks of doing this, they finally said, you know what, just send him home. We can't do anything anymore. We're just racking up this huge bill. And so Margot said, you know what, I'm going to take him to Dr. Nick. Like I said, she was a patient of mine, but she didn't think to bring a 6-week-old to a chiropractor's office. Nobody would. And she brought him in on a Monday. I'll never forget this. And we started adjusting him. And when you're adjusting a newborn that small, and you're just using little fingertip adjustments. It's not your hand. You don't hear things audible. You don't hear things make the sound. And I put pressure. And I just made gentle adjustments to certain areas. And his mid-back and his low back made a little sound, but his neck didn't. I just put pressure on his neck. And I did this every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And as God is my witness, I'll put my hand on a Bible. By Friday, the bleeding stopped, and he was holding food down. And it was miraculous. Miraculous. Now, these kids are all giants, 6-footers. I've moved out of the town that I used to practice in, so I don't see them anymore, but my wife has bumped into them. And it's the most amazing story of how the body can heal itself because they sent him home to die. The doctors couldn't do anything anymore, and they didn't know what to do. But I knew his healing power from inside that God put in his body could work. And that's really what it came down to. The power that God put within you is the power that heals you. That's the number one healing message I want you to get tonight, is that you have the power inside of you. It's not based on what diet you eat, although it's important. Now, I'm not saying those things aren't important, because let's get one thing straight. Once you get the nerve system working right, now fuel the body correctly. Give it the right fuel. Now you got that Ferrari running right from the inside. The electronics are working good. Put the fuel in it. Now run it. Exercise it. Okay? Then you make sure that you have a good mental attitude. Then you make sure that you're keeping the toxins down. Okay? So the 5 things we teach about in our office. Number 1, the nerve system. The single most important thing. Without that, none of these even matter. Okay? Number 2, probably nutrition. Number 3, exercise. Number 4, probably mindset and then detox in that order, maybe the other way around. But those are the 5 things we teach about. But number 1 has to be the nerve system. That's what got him well. That's what the doctors were missing. You can't put drugs in and think it's going to fix the problem that is fixed from the inside out by the nerve system working right. That's where God put all the healing power. All right? Now, I'm going to play this little video for you to watch. It's a fantastic video. It takes about 1 minute.
last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
So I love this video because it really comes down to the choices you're making. That's what it's all about. You're either doing one of two things. Either you're building health and wellness, or you're creating sickness and disease. You're either doing things that are, you're eating things, thinking in a certain way, moving a certain way, exercising, not exercising, taking care of your spine and nerve system, or you're not. Or you're going in this direction. You're drinking Coca-Cola, donuts, eating junk food all the time, Doritos. Sorry, Doritos, but it's junk. Okay? Not exercising, not moving your body, sitting at a computer all day long, and not getting your nerve system checked. The single most important thing. So once again, it's all about choices. You have the choice to be healthy and well. I make choices based on this. I want to be there for my family. I make choices because my wife, Katie, my daughters, my son, Andre, I want to be there for them. You know what? One of the biggest regrets I have now is that my mom's not here. And it's not really my regret so much, it's her regret. That she's not here for her grandchildren. My wife, to enjoy the fun things, the holidays that everybody enjoys. Taking my kids on play dates, going to the store, the movies with them, taking them on luncheons and going to get their nails done and their hair done and doing little girly trips and taking them shopping and doing all the things that grandmother wants to do. She can't do that right now because she's not here. She didn't take care of her health the way she should have. One thing that most people don't realize is there's a ripple effect. It's called the butterfly effect. And I encourage you to go on YouTube and watch some of the videos by a guy named Andy Andrews called the butterfly effect. It's fantastic. And he talks about how the choices you make, the things you do, everything you do in life matters. And it's going to ripple out to generations. There are people that need you. There are people that depend on you. There are generations that will never know you if you don't take care of your health. So what I encourage you to do, hopefully I got the point across with this video, single most important thing you need to be doing is making sure you're taking care of your spine and nerve system. Your health is your greatest asset. Your spine and nerve system, it all starts there. After that, then you do the nutrition, the exercise, the detox, and a good mental attitude. So I hope you got a lot out of this video. If you did, please make sure you like, you share, you comment, and subscribe. This is Dr. Nick. I love and appreciate you. Hopefully I inspired, empowered, and motivated you tonight. I hope I did. Anyway, God bless. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.